Hey, what's happening Wednesday? This is Dev from Tiny Enormous. A couple weeks ago, I talked about the Iron Maiden show at which I got that particular flag, and I mentioned how Nico looked a little bit tired and didn't use a lot of the kit, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was the last tour where we saw him behind the drums for Maiden. I'd heard that rumor actually the year prior, or in the tour prior, and this week Maiden announces Nico's going to retire, and Simon Dawson, who played with Steve Harris in British Lion, was going to pick up the sticks for Maiden, which is a totally fair exchange to make. I think it's just amazing that Maiden is still out and still playing. Nico is actually, I would count him as one of my more favorite drummers, and definitely has a unique style, unique groove. I was nowhere near as big of I wouldn't even call myself a British Lion fan, but I do remember thinking that the drummer had some groove to him, didn't play a lot of like blast beats or anything like that, and Maiden, one of the cool things about them is they don't do the blast beats, they don't do the chugging guitars, they don't do the Cookie Monster vocals. It's a much more like theatrical, less scary, less personal version of metal, and it's very much their own. So, we'll see how that goes. I think it's actually pretty cool. A lot of people forget Clive Burr played for ages, Number of the Beast, all that stuff was not Nico. So, we'll see how that stuff comes together. While we're talking about drummers also, Dave King, one of my favorite drummers, plays with the Bad Plus and Happy Apple, and of course Julian Lage. He's a Twin Cities cat, so he's from around here. I talked about the Julian Lage show I attended back in September, and I was looking for the link, and in a previous video I was like, I couldn't find the link, it's no longer online. While it's no longer on Jazz 88's site, the host of that show, Danny Sigelman, former drummer of Tiny Enormous, friend of the band, on his YouTube, and I'll put a link in the description, is the show. So you can listen to it. There's not video footage, but on the video itself, it's a still image with the audio. Skip to about 2 hours in, and you'll be able to hear that, the first hour of that Julian Lage show. It is really, really great. Being actually in the audience was mind-blowing. It's such a great performance, and Dave King absolutely crushes it. Now, drumming, you can kind of see, maybe if I turn the camera a little bit, yeah, some of my drums are right there. Drums were actually my first love in music. In fact, I'm currently a soul tone cymbals artist. I love playing the drums, and I play drums on most of the Tiny Enormous recordings. That might change as things progress. More news on that soon. But I've always loved drums, and then when I saw Slash play Sweet Child of Mine, the big guitar solo on MTV, that's when I was like, oh, guitar, that's what I want to do. And my parents didn't want to buy me a drum kit when I was young, so that makes perfect sense. Anyway, I want to talk about a couple drummers that kind of get overlooked. We all know, or we should know, about the Neil Pearts and the Danny Careys and the Steve Gadds, and there are other ones who've played in these huge bands that are absolutely incredible. I think Carter Beauford gets overlooked because it's Dave Matthews Band, and that kind of makes a little bit of sense. I think that, Mickey Hart has a really interesting groove and approach to the drums that, if you're not a deadhead, it might not connect with you, but absolutely is a fantastic drummer. While we're talking about hippie bands, Fishman at Fish, I kind of always forget how much I love that dude's playing. Really interesting stuff, really simple sometimes. He knows how to ebb and flow, and his ability to kind of both lead and follow the band at the same time, something that obviously we do a lot of in Tiny Enormous, but I love the way that music can feel both controlled and a little bit like it's about to go off the rails at any point in time, and he's really great at reining that in. Another one that I think is completely overlooked is Mitch Mitchell. Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix Experience. A lot of people just don't even listen to the drums, and what he's doing, I don't think anybody else would have played that stuff. Mitch Mitchell is one of the more interesting drummers I think I've ever heard. I put him up there with Ginger Baker. I think that John Densmore from The Doors gets overlooked while we're talking about a lot of these older cats. And, if you go back and you actually listen to what Matt Cameron was doing in Soundgarden, it is super impressive to get some stuff that is in an odd time signature, that's heavy, maybe with a bunch of space, and get that to be a radio hit the way that something like Fell on Black Days was. or outshined one of the greatest riffs and greatest songs of the 90s. Like, that song moves through different time signatures. It's very dynamic, and Matt Cameron absolutely crushes it. Bad Motorfinger is one of my all-time favorite albums. Just go back and listen to some of that playing specifically. I'm going to put a link to one of my favorite Mitch Mitchell performances in the description. Check that out. The Julian Lage link is down there as well. I'll talk to you soon. See you next week. And you know what? Let's end this with a clip of Steve Barone, who recorded drums for our new album. Let's end this with a clip of him just kind of taking the lead in one of the songs. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. See you next week. Cheers.